Why I always make mistakes. Lily often sighed deeply, her shoulders slumping with the weight of her linguistic struggles. Every attempt to express complex thoughts in English seemed to end in a tangled mess of incorrect grammar and fumbled vocabulary. Why I always make mistakes, she'd whisper to her reflection, a familiar frustration bubbling within her chest, threatening to drown any remaining motivation she possessed for learning this elusive language. Her confidence was at an all-time low. The corporate world demanded English proficiency, yet each meeting felt like a public execution of her self-esteem. Colleagues conversed effortlessly, their words flowing like a smooth river, while Lily's felt like dammed-up trickles, hesitant and disjointed. She yearned for that same ease, that fluid expression, but the gap between her desire and reality felt impossibly wide, a chasm she couldn't bridge alone. She'd spent countless hours poring over grammar books, memorizing word lists, and diligently completing online exercises. Yet, when it came to actual conversation, her mind would freeze, her tongue would tie itself into knots, and the perfect sentence she'd rehearsed would vanish into thin air. It was a vicious cycle of study without practical application, a frustrating loop. The fear of making a fool of herself loomed large, a dark cloud stifling any nascent attempts at spontaneous speech. She pictured the polite, yet noticeable, corrections from others, the subtle shifts in their expressions indicating her linguistic blunders. This self-imposed pressure created an invisible barrier, making every potential conversation an anxiety-inducing ordeal she dreaded facing daily. One quiet evening, as the city lights twinkled outside her window, a profound realization struck her. All her learning had been passive, a one-way street of consumption without active production. She needed to break free from the shackles of silent study and venture into the uncharted territory of speaking. The thought was daunting, but also liberating in its simplicity. "Start talking at home," she declared to her empty apartment, the words feeling alien yet powerful as they echoed back to her. This was the revolutionary first step she hadn't dared to consider seriously before. The privacy of her own space offered a sanctuary, a judgment-free zone where mistakes could be made freely, without the burning embarrassment she so feared. She began with simple sentences, narrating her mundane activities aloud. "I am making tea," she'd say, as she boiled water. "This is my favorite mug," holding it up like a prop in a one-person play. The initial awkwardness was immense, a strange feeling of talking to herself like a peculiar eccentric, but she pushed through the discomfort bravely. This initial phase, awkward as it was, became her foundation for understanding how to practice English in a truly meaningful way. It wasn't about perfection, but about consistent, fearless vocalization. She realized that fluency wasn't born from flawless grammar, but from the willingness to simply open one's mouth and produce sounds, however imperfectly, into the air. She started mimicking lines from her favorite English movies and TV shows, trying to capture the intonation and rhythm of native speakers. This shadowing technique felt incredibly silly at first, like she was performing for an invisible audience, but it subtly trained her mouth muscles and ingrained natural speech patterns into her subconscious mind over time. Her daily routine now included short bursts of spoken English throughout the day. While commuting, she'd describe the passing scenery silently in her head, then whisper it aloud if no one was nearby. These small, consistent efforts chipped away at her internal resistance, slowly transforming a daunting task into a manageable habit she embraced willingly. Yet, the path was far from smooth. My daily struggle became a recurring theme, punctuated by moments of self-doubt and frustration. There were days when her tongue felt like lead, her mind a blank slate, and the words simply wouldn't come out, no matter how hard she tried to force them into coherent sentences. She'd stumble over common phrases, forget basic vocabulary, and mix up verb tenses despite knowing the rules intellectually. These setbacks were disheartening, making her question the effectiveness of her solo practice. It felt like walking through treacle, every step requiring immense effort and yielding painfully slow progress, testing her resolve consistently. The urge to revert to her old habits of silent study was strong. Why subject herself to this constant struggle, this relentless self-critique? It was tempting to retreat into the comfortable, non-judgmental world of reading and listening, where mistakes were invisible and anxieties remained safely tucked away. But she knew that wasn't the answer. Lily understood that true progress lay beyond her comfort zone, in the messy, imperfect realm of real-time communication. To truly learn how to talk in English, she needed to embrace the imperfections and the inevitable stumbles as integral parts of the learning journey, not as indicators of failure or personal inadequacy, but as steps forward. She sought out online language exchange partners, a terrifying prospect initially. The first few conversations were excruciatingly awkward, filled with long pauses and hesitant responses. Her heart pounded with anxiety, and she often felt overwhelmed by the speed and complexity of native speakers' replies during these challenging, yet vital, interactions. But with each faltering word, a tiny brick of confidence was laid. She began to see that native speakers were often patient and encouraging, genuinely interested in helping her improve, not judging her mistakes. This external validation, however small, fueled her desire to continue pushing her boundaries consistently. Lily reflected on why you should practice speaking with renewed clarity. It wasn't merely about communication, it was about solidifying knowledge, transforming passive understanding into active skill. Speaking forced her to retrieve words from memory, construct sentences on the fly, and engage with the language in a dynamic, immediate way, reinforcing everything. Speaking practice exposed her weaknesses immediately, showing her exactly which grammatical structures she consistently struggled with, or which vocabulary words she genuinely lacked. This immediate feedback loop was invaluable, directing her subsequent study sessions with pinpoint accuracy, making her learning more efficient and highly targeted. It also built muscle memory in her mouth and tongue, making the physical act of speaking feel less cumbersome over time. The sounds became more natural, the rhythm more instinctive, gradually shedding the robotic intonation she once possessed. This physical adaptation was a subtle but profound change she noticed. How to improve your fluency became her next obsession, and she realized it wasn't just about speaking more, but about speaking better, more smoothly, and more naturally. This required a deeper understanding of connected speech, intonation patterns, and common idiomatic expressions that made conversations flow effortlessly between people. She started recording herself, listening back to identify areas for improvement. It was cringeworthy initially, hearing her own mistakes laid bare, but it was also incredibly insightful. She could pinpoint where her rhythm faltered, where her pronunciation deviated significantly, and where her sentence structure became convoluted. To bridge the gap between understanding and producing, she began consciously incorporating new phrases and vocabulary into her daily practice. If she learned a new idiom, she made an effort to use it several times that day, even if only talking to herself. This active integration helped embed new knowledge. This led her to the profound importance of input, specifically why you must listen. She understood that speaking was the output, but effective output required rich, diverse input. Listening was not just about comprehension, it was about absorbing patterns, intonation, and the natural flow of spoken English from real sources. She intensified her listening regimen, moving beyond casual background noise to active, focused engagement. Podcasts on various subjects, English news channels, and documentaries became her constant companions. She sought out content that genuinely interested her, making the learning process feel less like a chore and more like a captivating hobby. To improve your listening skills, she employed specific techniques. She'd listen to short clips multiple times, first for general understanding, then for specific details, and finally to catch every single word. This layered approach sharpened her auditory perception significantly, making her ears more attuned. She also practiced active listening, trying to anticipate what the speaker would say next, or summarizing the main points in her head as she listened. This engaged her brain more deeply, transforming passive reception into an interactive mental exercise, greatly enhancing her ability to follow complex discussions. Transcribing short audio snippets became another powerful tool. Writing down exactly what she heard forced her to pay meticulous attention to pronunciation and word boundaries, revealing common contractions and connected speech phenomena she often missed during casual listening sessions. It was challenging, but highly effective for clarity. Lily discovered that listening was not merely about understanding individual words, but about grasping the speaker's intent, tone, and the nuances of expression. It was the crucial counterpart to speaking, providing the raw material for her brain to process and eventually reproduce effectively in her own conversations. She began to notice how native speakers used filler words, pauses, and natural hesitations, elements that made their speech sound authentic and human. Incorporating these subtle aspects into her own speaking helped her sound less robotic and more like a natural communicator, enhancing her overall fluency dramatically. The synergy between speaking and listening became increasingly clear. Her improved listening allowed her to pick up on new vocabulary and grammatical structures more easily, which in turn enriched her speaking ability, creating a virtuous cycle of accelerated language acquisition and confident expression. This integrated approach led her to the undeniable conclusion: the best way to learn English was not through isolated study, but through active, consistent, and integrated practice of all four skills, with a heavy emphasis on speaking and listening as the driving forces for real-world application and growth. It was about immersion, even if self-created, and about embracing mistakes as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. Every error was a lesson, every awkward conversation a chance to improve, every moment of self-doubt a reminder of how far she had already come in her ambitious journey. She joined an English-speaking club, moving beyond online exchanges to face-to-face interactions. The initial fear was still present, but it was now tempered by a newfound confidence gained from her diligent home practice and successful virtual conversations. She felt more prepared than ever before to engage. In these group settings, she learned to navigate real-time discussions, interrupt politely, express agreement or disagreement, and tell personal anecdotes. These social nuances of conversation were something no textbook could fully teach, only authentic interaction could truly impart such valuable skills. Her pronunciation steadily improved, becoming clearer and more natural. The feedback from fellow club members and the encouraging facilitators provided specific insights that helped her fine-tune her articulation and intonation patterns, making her more easily understood by everyone listening. Vocabulary that once felt abstract and distant now became active tools in her conversational arsenal. She found herself retrieving words with greater ease and accuracy, able to choose the precise term to convey her meaning, making her communication much more effective and nuanced. Grammar rules, once rigid and confusing, started to feel more intuitive, almost like a natural rhythm within her speech. The constant practical application solidified her understanding far more effectively than any rote memorization ever could, making the complex rules finally click into place. The fear of judgment began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of liberation. She realized that people were generally more interested in understanding her message than in scrutinizing her grammatical perfection, which freed her from a huge mental burden she had carried for so long. Lily started embracing her accent, understanding it was part of her unique identity, not something to be ashamed of or eradicated. Her goal shifted from sounding native to sounding clear and confident, a much healthier and more achievable perspective that empowered her significantly. She also learned the importance of perseverance. There were still days when she felt tired, unmotivated, or when progress seemed agonizingly slow. But she remembered her initial struggles and how far she had come, drawing strength from her past achievements to push forward consistently. Her fluency wasn't a switch that flipped overnight, it was a gradual accumulation of small victories, consistent effort, and unwavering dedication. Each correct sentence, each successful conversation, each moment of clear understanding contributed to the ever-growing tapestry of her English proficiency. The benefits extended beyond language. Her confidence in general communication soared, empowering her in professional settings and personal interactions alike. She found herself more articulate, more willing to express her opinions, and less intimidated by public speaking opportunities of various kinds. She encouraged others to adopt her methods, sharing her journey and the powerful impact of consistent speaking and listening practice. Her transformation became an inspiration, a testament to the idea that anyone, regardless of their starting point, could achieve their language learning goals. Lily understood that true fluency wasn't about eradicating mistakes entirely, but about developing the resilience to make them, learn from them, and continue speaking regardless. It was about effective communication, not flawless perfection, a liberating realization that changed her entire approach. Her daily struggle didn't vanish completely, but it transformed. It was no longer a struggle against herself, but a healthy push for continuous improvement, a dynamic challenge she now welcomed with enthusiasm and a clear sense of purpose in her learning journey forward. She continued to seek out new learning opportunities, from advanced podcasts to specialized online courses. The journey of language acquisition was never-ending, she realized, but it was now a joyful exploration rather than a daunting, intimidating uphill battle against seemingly impossible odds. Her initial question, "Why I always make mistakes," now held a different meaning. Mistakes were simply data points, guiding her path to greater accuracy and naturalness. They were indicators of effort, not inadequacy, and served as valuable feedback she actively embraced for improvement. The solitude of her apartment, once a place of hesitant whispers, now resonated with confident monologues and lively virtual conversations. Her home became her personal language lab, a space where she could freely experiment, stumble, and grow without the pressure of external judgment. She realized that the best way to learn wasn't a secret formula or an expensive program, but a simple commitment to consistent, active engagement with the language in all its forms, particularly through the powerful combination of speaking and attentive listening. Lily now spoke English not just adequately, but eloquently, capable of nuanced conversations and expressing complex ideas with remarkable clarity. Her transformation was a testament to the power of self-belief, strategic practice, and the courage to step outside her comfort zone and truly engage. She no longer feared making mistakes, she welcomed them as integral parts of the learning process, understanding that each stumble brought her closer to mastery. Her journey from silence to confidence was a powerful narrative, inspiring all who heard her fluent speech and saw her newfound ease. The initial struggle had shaped her resilience, and the consistent practice had forged her fluency. Every word she now uttered was a testament to the hours of dedication she had poured into her personal growth, proving that anyone can overcome their linguistic hurdles with perseverance. Her story was a living embodiment of the principles she had discovered: start small, practice often, embrace errors, listen actively, and speak boldly. These simple tenets, applied with unwavering consistency, transformed her English from a source of anxiety into a wellspring of empowerment. She knew her journey was ongoing, but the foundation was solid, and the path ahead was clear. English was no longer a barrier but a bridge, connecting her to new opportunities, cultures, and people, enriching her life in countless, unexpected, and truly wonderful ways. So, if you ever find yourself asking why I always make mistakes, remember Lily's journey. Embrace the awkwardness, the daily struggles, and the power of starting to talk at home. Your fluency journey, though unique, will surely benefit from her inspiring story of consistent dedication.